If you're someone that struggles with hope or feeling hopeless, I think that this episode is going to help a great deal. And this is one of my raw and unedited ones. So I'm going to talk from the heart as vulnerably and authentically as possible because I've been thinking a lot about hope lately. And I've been having lots of conversations with people around feeling hopeless in this world where inflation is out of control and none of us can make ends meet, or maybe we're barely making ends meet. And we hope that things will get better. We hope that something will change, but yet nothing is. And we're kind of left in this hopeless cycle, if you will. So if that speaks to you in any way, you found this episode for a reason. And I'm just going to not even cut to any fancy music or intros because this is one of my raw and unedited episodes. I'm doing these more often because sometimes I run into these narratives, the Human Narrative podcast. There are narratives every single week that I come into contact with that I know will speak to you, that are impacting my friends, my family, people that I know all over the place. And this feeling of being hopeless yet wanting to have hope is a narrative that everyone has. We all want to hope, but yet we all feel hopeless. And what made me want to talk about this is I recently was sitting down with my very good friend, my grief counselor, my spiritual teacher, my second mom, Laura, who kind of keeps me accountable and helps me stay sharp, or at least challenges me to keep my spiritual game going. And she also questions my thought processes. For instance, I said to her, sometimes I kind of feel like hope is an addiction. And she didn't really care for that idea very much because she said, well, how is hope an addiction? If people can't have hope, it's hopeless, right? And my perspective and what got me thinking about this idea that hope is an addiction is, well, things like gambling apps or dating apps or anything that makes us feel like something good is going to happen. I hope that I hit it big. I hope that I find the love of my life on this app. I hope that I turn this $5 into 5,000 by just betting on the right parlay. I work with a bunch of amazing people. They all love sports. They love their little gambling apps. I've tried dating apps and it's very addictive. And Laura and I began to chat more and more about this. And she challenged me. She says, I don't agree with you. I don't believe that hope is an addiction because people need hope. So we got into a back and forth. And I totally agree with her because as we talked more about it, I realized hope is not an addiction. The apps, the gambling, dating, work, money, those things are the addiction that make us, quote unquote, hope that things are going to get better or that something's going to change in our life, or maybe that we're going to get lucky and we're going to strike it rich or we're going to find that perfect person. But ultimately, maybe that's the ego using hope in an addictive way. The ego turning our desires, our dreams, our wants, our needs into something that we start obsessing over, or we start hoping that this app or whatever it is going to change my life. Because hope, as Laura explained it to me, and obviously I know what hope is a mix of trust and faith. And I don't know about you guys, but I've always struggled with finding a balance between being hopeful but also being hopeless. For a really long time, I always lived with this mentality that the second shoe was going to drop, like something bad was going to happen because things always just went bad for me. So what's the point in hoping that something is going to change? Maybe a relationship is going to get better, or maybe I'll find a better job with a higher salary, or I sure hope that my content blows up so that I can start making money with it. And so there's this tricky balancing act of trying not to just live in the world of hope, but also not becoming completely hopeless, and knowing that maybe it's a mix of being active, doing things, working towards what we want, but also having trust and faith that it's all going to work out. Now, I'm going to bring not religion into the conversation real quick for you, but I'm going to bring a story from the Bible. And just please don't stop listening because I just mentioned religion or a Bible. Laura, like I already mentioned, she's a reverend, and she has changed my life in terms of my perspective around religion. Until her, I honestly hated God. I had lost my mom in 2014, and I became a dad at the same time. And I was really, really angry when I found her. And she started helping me with my grief, which then led to 2017 when I got sober. So she brings a really, really refreshing perspective and take on the Bible. And for anyone that's listening that has maybe a preconceived notion about religion or organized religion or those words, the idea of it puts a bitter taste in your mouth, I hear you loud and clear. I know how you feel, but I want you just to be open to a story that I'm going to read to you because ultimately for me, I just think that the Bible is an amazing book, or at least I'm getting back to a place where I see it as a piece of literature that offers so much to us, very much like the Four Agreements or the Power of Now. Stories, parables, anything that can just teach us about a way of living life. And this, I believe, speaks to this topic of hope and hopelessness and trying to find balance in it all with trust and faith. So I'm going to read you from the book of Mark. And again, this is just a story, so don't just stop listening because I'm bringing the Bible into it. Because I know there's an old version of myself that would have been like, screw this, I'm not listening to this crap. But I think that this book and this story are really applicable to what this raw and unedited episode is about. So, yes, I'm going to read from the Bible. This story or parable is called Jesus Stills a Storm, and any he reference in what I'm about to read is talking about Jesus. And just to give you some very quick and very basic context, if you don't know the Bible or care to know the Bible or any of the stories, Jesus was, in essence, a teacher, and his disciples were his students, and they were being of service to a very large crowd of people that they had to reach by boat, and now they're getting back in the boat and they're leaving. So that's kind of the very, very simple context of this story. But again, called Jesus Stills a Storm, Mark chapter 4, verse 35. And it says, "On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, 'Let us go across to the other side.' And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boats, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, 'Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?' He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, 'Peace, be still.' Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, 'Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?' And they were filled with a great awe and said to one another, 'Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?'" Now, I want you to just think of this story metaphorically. We're not going to debate if it really happened, if Jesus the man could calm the winds and the storm with his words. But I want you to think about this in terms of hope and balancing with hopelessness when life feels rough, when life feels stormy, when things feel out of control. What I picked up from this was that, one, I need to remind myself to be still, to be peaceful, even in chaos, even in the worst of times, even when life is kicking up storms all around me. And then I need to maintain some type of faith. And I know that I'm bringing a lot of religious terms into this episode. And again, I really want everyone to hear me. I am not religious in any way. I also have nothing against anyone who's religious in any way. I'm a very spiritual person. I'm working on becoming an even more deeply grounded spiritual person. But I have realized that we can all have faith in something. Having faith in life is extremely important because if we don't have faith, we are completely hopeless. Like we get in our car and we have faith that our car will start and our car will take us where we need to go. We have faith that if we put gas in our car, it will turn on. And I don't know why I'm using a car analogy, but it's the first thing that came to my head. But I don't want you to be put off by this idea of faith just because faith sometimes has a religious connotation. But we have to believe in something bigger than ourselves. More importantly, we have to believe in our ability to remain calm and peaceful in the face of a storm. And obviously, these things just don't automatically happen overnight. No one just can be serene and peaceful when shit hits the fan. That's not how all of us humans are wired. It takes time and practice, but it is possible that we can find a way to be in the moment when things go bad and have faith that we can survive this moment, and we can then have that hope that things will be better because we are more in control of our emotions and we are not feeding the storms around us. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's really, really important to know all of that, because if we don't have that faith, if we don't have that trust in a higher power or in our ability to handle life, that's when we start feeling hopeless. That's when we give into the ego's version of hope, thinking that things like a gambling app or a dating app or social media or content creation or YouTube or a new job or a new car or money or whatever it is, we start thinking that those are forms of hope that will make our life easier, that will make us happy, that will make us better humans, that will make people like us more, that will make us like ourselves more. And it's all just a massive rabbit hole, because none of that stuff will ever cure hopelessness if we don't have some type of faith and trust, if we don't believe somewhere that we ourselves, our individual beings, have the ability to figure out any and all problem that is thrown at us, that we have the ability to face every storm that comes our way, which then ultimately allows us to be able to step into that hope that is based on trust and faith. And whatever you want to have trust and faith in, that is up to you. That is based on everyone's individual journey. Some people will lean on a religious version of God. Some people will lean on a spiritual version of God. Some people will lean on they themselves being their own version of God. It doesn't really matter what you call it. It's just about finding that healthy version of hope based on faith and trust, compared to that ego-driven hope that uses our dreams and our wants and our needs and our desires against us, that then eventually makes us feel hopeless, that keeps us stuck in that cycle. So I have faith and trust that something in this episode spoke to you, because I know that the hope and hopeless narrative is alive and well in every single human being. We all have to fight it on a daily basis. But keep going, my friends. Have trust and faith, first and foremost, in yourself. You have all the answers. You have all the power within you to figure out anything and everything in your life. All right? Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for listening. I'm Clark with the Human Narrative Podcast, bringing to you another raw, unedited episode. And I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you listening. And I'll talk to you really soon. Bye.
You've been listening to another episode from the Human Narrative Podcast. Don't forget to like and share, and we hope you consider subscribing.